Well, let's take a listen to Kelsey Mitchell talking about Caitlin Clark here.
Room. So what do you think, or do you feel like people sometimes just like overlook your leadership specifically and your impact on the team from like a chemistry standpoint, because there's just so many narratives? So like, do you think people are overlooking that?
She made the All-W first team. I don't think anyone's overlooking what Kelsey Mitchell did this year. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think anyone is.
Caitlin Clark just got called soft by her own teammate, and the internet is losing its mind. Kelsey Mitchell went on Sue Bird's podcast and basically torpedoed any chance of this partnership working long term. She didn't just spill tea about playing with the biggest star in women's basketball history. She straight up questioned whether Clark has what it takes to be a franchise player. The whole thing started innocent enough. Mitchell was talking about leadership and team chemistry when the interviewer asked about people overlooking her impact. That's when Mitchell dropped this nuclear bomb disguised as praise.
Because there's just so many narratives. So like, do you think people are overlooking that?
I think that in a short, yeah. I think naturally, yes, because of the society, the social media, and how bad, people take the social media and abuse it for in the wrong realm of light. And so I think that's one part of it. But I also think that it was an adjustment period. And I talked to, the FIBA organization about this. It's like, I think it was an adjustment period that we all should have adjusted to throughout the course of the organization.
She said Clark never tried to be bigger than the program and always fit into the team structure. Sounds nice, right? Wrong. Here's where it gets spicy. When you're talking about a generational talent, saying they never tried to take over isn't a compliment. It's basically calling them weak. Think about every basketball dynasty in history. Michael Jordan didn't worry about hurting feelings when he took control of the Bulls. LeBron James didn't hesitate to demand the ball in crucial moments. Kobe Bryant made the Lakers revolve around his game, not the other way around. But according to Mitchell, Clark came into Indiana trying to play nice with everyone. She deferred to veterans, fit into existing systems, and made sure everyone felt comfortable. That might work for role players, but superstars don't become legends by being polite.
Adjustment period that, we all should have adjusted to throughout the course of the organization.
That actually sounds like she said she had to talk to the organization about it. So I would say, like, they did not prepare for Caitlin Clark. From an organizational level, they didn't prepare for Caitlin Clark. They knew they were getting Caitlin Clark for literally 5 months before a draft.
The kicker comes next. Mitchell keeps emphasizing how Clark understood chemistry and never wanted to be bigger than anybody in the locker room. Translation, Clark acted like a rookie instead of the face of the franchise. This isn't leadership material. This is someone who's afraid to step on toes. But wait, there's more. The way Mitchell talks about Clark is downright condescending. She calls her a kid in a candy store and describes their relationship as big sister to little sister. Excuse me? Clark just finished the most dominant college basketball career in recent memory and single-handedly brought mainstream attention to women's basketball. She doesn't need a big sister. She needs teammates who recognize greatness when they see it. Mitchell's comments reveal something deeper than just personality differences. This is about respect, or the complete lack of it.
She basically saying Caitlin was soft. Basically, she never put her foot down and tried to override. That's what I'm thinking she going into, but I could be wrong.
It wasn't, I don't know how to explain that. You know what I'm trying to say, though?
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to say. It's like she knows who she is. She comes in. She's going to obviously do her part because that's what being a professional athlete is. But with the understanding of fitting into a team, making sure we fit, making sure we have chemistry. So it's never bigger than like the group
it's like
itself.
She wasn't trying to be bigger than everybody. Like within our locker room, she wasn't trying to be big.
She should have been, bruh. She should have been
bigger than anyone else. And I think
the Fever organization has spent months treating Clark like she should be grateful for the opportunity instead of building the entire franchise around her talent. That's organizational malpractice on an epic scale. And here's the really crazy part. Mitchell had to schedule meetings with the Fever front office because things weren't working properly. Think about that for a second. The team knew for 5 months they were getting the biggest star in women's basketball, and they still couldn't figure out how to make it work. Let's dive deeper into this organizational disaster. The Indiana Fever had 5 months to prepare for Caitlin Clark's arrival, 5 whole months to figure out rotations, offensive schemes, and how to maximize the talent of a player who averaged nearly 32 points and 9 assists in her final college season. Instead, they did absolutely nothing.
If that makes sense, but like, it wasn't like she wasn't trying to take over. You know, it wasn't. I don't know how to explain that. You know what I'm trying to say though?
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to say. It's like she knows who she is. She comes in. She's gonna obviously do her part because that's what being a professional athlete is. But with the understanding of fitting into a team, making sure we fit, making sure we have chemistry. So it's never bigger than like the group
it's like
itself.
she wasn't trying to be bigger than everybody. Like,
See, cause she know Caitlyn is comfortable with who she is. She knows she the biggest thing moving and smoking. Like she don't have to come be arrogant. She's not an arrogant person. So she's not gonna be that way with you guys. But y'all need to play y'all role though.
Mitchell's podcast confession exposed just how unprepared the Fever really were. She admitted that players, coaches, trainers, and the entire organization had to scramble once Clark actually showed up. That's not an adjustment period. That's organizational incompetence disguised as corporate speak. But here's what makes it even worse. The Fever weren't some championship team that Clark needed to fit into. They were terrible before she arrived. They hadn't made the playoffs in years. Mitchell herself had been there 7 seasons without getting past the first round. So what exactly was this sacred program that Clark was supposed to respect? The answer is simple: veteran ego protection. Mitchell and the other players didn't want to admit that everything they'd been doing was wrong. Instead of embracing change and building around their new superstar, they made Clark adapt to their mediocrity. Now here's the really twisted part. Mitchell keeps talking about how Clark maintained the program and never tried to override anything.
No, it very much makes sense. And you know what? Like, she wasn't even asked about Caitlin Clark. And like, there's no matter what, I mean this when I say this. No matter what happens, even if I don't think Kelsey Mitchell wants to leave. It's gonna take, these two have had 10 games together in a system where they were able to run, both of them were able to play.
She frames this as maturity, but it's actually the opposite. Great players don't maintain failing systems, they blow them up and demand better. Think about what happened when other superstars joined struggling franchises. When LeBron went to Miami, they didn't ask him to fit into Eric Spoelstra's existing offense. They completely rebuilt their system around his strengths. When the Warriors drafted Stephen Curry, they didn't force him into Mark Jackson's slow-paced approach. They hired Steve Kerr and revolutionized basketball. The plot thickens even more. Mitchell revealed that she had conversations with the organization about these adjustment issues. That means the Fever front office knew there were problems from day one and chose to do nothing about it. They let their franchise players struggle in a broken system rather than making the hard decisions necessary for success. And get this, the adjustment period Mitchell talks about wasn't just about basketball strategy. It was about figuring out how to handle Clark's massive popularity and media attention. The Fever had 5 months to prepare for sold-out arenas, national television games, and unprecedented fan interest. They still weren't ready. This level of organizational dysfunction would be embarrassing for a high school team, let alone a professional franchise. The Fever essentially admitted they had no plan for integrating the most talented player in women's basketball history. That's not just poor planning, that's professional negligence that borders on sabotage. Now let's break down what Mitchell really said versus what she meant. The whole podcast interview was basically a masterclass in passive-aggressive communication. Mitchell spent the entire time giving Clark backhanded compliments while positioning herself as the mature veteran who had to guide the naive rookie. The most telling moment came when Mitchell described Clark as someone who knows who she is, but understands fitting into a team. On the surface, that sounds positive. Dig deeper, and it's actually criticism wrapped in fake praise. Mitchell is essentially saying Clark was too weak to demand what she deserved. But wait, it gets juicier. Mitchell keeps using the word program instead of team or family. That's not accidental. Programs have hierarchies, established orders, and traditions that newcomers must respect. Teams adapt and evolve based on talent. Mitchell wanted Clark to know her place in the pecking order. The really insulting part is how Mitchell talks about Clark's personality showing in her game. She calls her a live light and says it's dope for her, but the tone suggests she's talking about a child who's cute but not serious. That's not how you describe a generational talent who just revolutionized college basketball. Here's where the psychology gets interesting. Mitchell frames humility as virtue when what she really wants is submission. She praises Clark for not being arrogant, but confidence isn't arrogance when you're the best player on on the court. Every great athlete has to believe they're special. That's not ego, that's necessity. The most revealing comment came next. Mitchell said Clark wasn't trying to be bigger than everybody in the locker room, then immediately added that she should have been. Hold up, did she just accidentally tell the truth? Because that's exactly what happened. Clark should have walked into that locker room knowing she was the franchise player and demanding everyone else adjust accordingly. Instead, Clark played the good teammate role. She deferred to veterans, ran plays designed for other players, and made sure everyone felt included. That might win you popularity contests, but it doesn't win championships. Greatness requires a certain level of selfishness that Clark was apparently unwilling to embrace. Not only that, but Mitchell's comments reveal the toxic dynamic that's been brewing all season. Clark produces historic numbers while playing injured, fills arenas across the country, and brings unprecedented attention to the WNBA. Meanwhile, Mitchell takes contested shots and acts like Clark should be grateful for the opportunity to make her look good. The most damaging part of this whole situation is how Mitchell talks about their chemistry developing over just 10 games. 10 games. That's all they had together when the system actually worked. The rest of the season was apparently Clark trying to figure out how to be great within a system designed to limit her impact. Here's the catch-22 that's driving Clark absolutely insane. She's stuck in an impossible situation where every move she makes gets criticized. If she defers to teammates and plays within the system, she gets called soft and passive. If she demands the ball and takes over games, she gets labeled selfish and difficult. There's literally no way for her to win. This psychological torture started from day one. Clark came into the league with the pressure of saving women's basketball while also being told to know her place. The media wanted her to be the next Michael Jordan, but her own team wanted her to be a role player who happened to score 20 points per game. The twisted irony here is that Clark actually did everything Mitchell claims she wanted. She stayed engaged when she wasn't the focal point of the offense. She maintained passion when the team ran plays for other players. She proved she could be a team player even when it hurt her individual statistics. But apparently, that wasn't enough either. Now Mitchell is basically saying Clark was too much of a team player. She should have been more selfish, more demanding, more willing to step on toes. Except every time Clark showed flashes of that aggressive mentality, she got pulled back into line by coaches who prioritize veteran comfort over winning. Let's examine what really happened this season. Clark played hurt for basically the entire year. She dealt with a hip injury, ankle problems, and general wear and tear from being the primary target for every opposing defense. Meanwhile, she was trying to learn a professional system that wasn't designed to maximize her strengths. Coach Stephanie White made it clear from the beginning that the offense would run through Kelsey Mitchell. Clark was expected to be a complementary piece rather than the centerpiece. That's like asking Steph Curry to be a catch-and-shoot player instead of letting him create his own offense. The most frustrating aspect of this whole mess is how Clark's unselfishness gets twisted into weakness. She averaged over 8 assists per game because she was constantly looking to make her teammates better. She could have easily averaged 25 points if she shot as much as Mitchell, but she chose to involve everyone else in the offense. But here's what really happened behind the scenes. Every time Clark tried to assert herself, she faced resistance from veterans who felt threatened by her talent. They dressed it up as protecting team chemistry, but it was really about protecting their own roles and shot attempts. The breaking point came when Clark realized that being the ultimate team player wasn't enough. She sacrificed individual glory for team success, and her own teammates still questioned her leadership and toughness. That's not just disrespectful, it's destructive to everything the Fever are trying to build. This brings us to the moment of truth. Caitlin Clark now faces a career-defining decision that will determine whether she becomes a legend or just another talented player who never reached her potential. The Kelsey Mitchell situation has exposed everything wrong with the Indiana Fever organization, and Clark has 3 choices moving forward. Option 1 is the safe route. She can keep being the ultimate team player, continue deferring to Mitchell, and hope things magically improve next season. This path leads to a solid career with good statistics and maybe a playoff appearance or 2, but it also means accepting mediocrity and never becoming the transcendent superstar she was meant to be. The reality check nobody wants to discuss is that this approach has already failed. Clark spent an entire season trying to make everyone else comfortable, and what did it get her? public criticism from her own teammate, and a system that's designed to limit her impact rather than maximize it. Option 2 is the risky power play. Clark could demand changes, tell ownership that Stephanie White's approach isn't working, and insist the entire offense gets rebuilt around her strengths. This means potentially alienating teammates, getting labeled as difficult, and facing massive backlash if it doesn't work immediately. But here's the thing about greatness. It requires uncomfortable conversations and difficult decisions. Every superstar in basketball history has reached a point where they had to choose between being liked and being successful. Jordan pushed out teammates who couldn't keep up. Kobe forced the Lakers to trade Shaq. LeBron left Cleveland when they couldn't build a championship roster around him. Option 3 is the nuclear option, demanding a trade. Clark could force her way out of Indiana and find an organization that actually understands what they have. This would be the most dramatic solution, but it might also be the smartest long-term move for her career. Think about what Clark could accomplish with the right supporting cast and coaching system. She's already proven she can fill arenas, break television ratings records, and make casual fans care about women's basketball. Imagine what she could do with an organization that actually prioritized her success over veteran feelings. The most telling aspect of this entire situation is how the Fever have handled Clark's arrival. They've had the biggest star in women's basketball history drop into their lap, and instead of building a championship culture around her, they've spent the season protecting everyone else's ego. Meanwhile, other franchises are watching this disaster unfold and taking notes. Every general manager in the WNBA knows that acquiring Clark would instantly transform their organization. They're seeing how Indiana has mismanaged this golden opportunity and preparing their own pitch for why Clark should consider a change of scenery. The clock is ticking on Clark's patience, and Mitchell's comments might have just accelerated the timeline for a decision that could reshape the entire league. If you're enjoying this breakdown of the WNBA's biggest drama and want to stay updated on all the latest developments in women's basketball, smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think Clark should do next.